Did you enjoy today?
Yes.
We gotta cover what we did today.
Got up and had breakfast.
Our intention was to have a slow morning. I mean, this whole vacation has been about taking it slow. When we visit Italy, we don't feel the need to rush from one site to the next. We've seen so much of it. Today we were planning on getting a slow start. It's Fiesta della Donna. That is Women's Day.
All the museums in Florence, they call it a half-price day.
No, we call it half-price day.
We call it half-price day. And the reason why I call it half-price day is because women get in free to most of the museums and libraries and things that...
Which means we only have to pay for Corey's, so it's half-price day for us. It's free for women, though.
It's on, today, March 8th.
We thought we haven't been to the Galleria Accademia since 20 years ago because the last time we went was when we were here for our wedding.
2002.
So our intention was to go to the Accademia. So we loaded up the car probably around 10 o'clock this morning.
Yeah.
And drove into the city using our navigation.
And one thing we didn't realize getting into the city is that because the buildings are so tall that as you're driving down the narrow streets, the Wi-Fi doesn't work very well. Google Maps was delayed.
We circled the parking garage that we were looking for
5 times?
5 times.
I don't know how many zones that we went through, so I'm sure we're going to get a huge bill for
I'm thinking when we get back, we'll be getting some kind of toll bill. And it usually takes almost a month to 2 months before you see that. So we'll have something to look forward to.
What we're looking at with that.
But we did find it, and it was right where the maps said that it was, but we were just missing it by like one street over. We found it, got parked. The guy was really nice since it was already noon by that time.
He gave us a little bit of a discount, I believe, for parking, so it wasn't...
Maybe that'll pay for the tolls. We even at one point stopped and Corey got out and went to ask for direction, but while he was out of the car going to ask for directions, he saw the sign for the garage. So.
Just a little narrow alleyway that you just wouldn't suspect would be...
So we got the car parked and we walked through the city. Of course, you pass the same iconic places again and again. Strangely enough, you still, 20 years later, and as many visits as we've made, we still get dumbfounded and sit around and goggle at the Duomo.
Just get caught up in all the sights and then, walk down a street and you're like, I thought I remembered this before, but and you end up taking pictures of it again just because you're there. And it's like, how many pictures do I have of this already? But, it's different lighting or different angles or whatever.
The crowds were so much less this time.
They really were.
We navigate all of that and finally get to the intended location of the Galleria Accademia. They have a queue line set up outside. You have to show your green pass, which in our case is actually a COVID vaccination certificate along with our passport.
Just see how much easier it is to have that digital pass and you just they scan the QR code and it's all good, but
you can almost feel the eye roll when you hand over your COVID vaccination card.
It's not digital. They have to input it manually and they have to visually see the passport and yes.
They checked all of that in the queue outside. Limited number of people are allowed inside. You have to wear your FFP2 mask.
Too. That was also a requirement.
We got in, no problem.
It's one of the very popular areas, so it's always crowded. It's a long nave, and everybody's always huddled around Statue of David. This time it really impacted us just how few people were around.
I would be going to the museum so much more often if there were that few of people.
We've talked about this a few times before, and we've kind of compared it to the crowds that were around in 2002.
It was even less than that.
It was a little bit less than that. I think the crowds have almost doubled every 5 years we've come back.
And how fascinating to see the base of David with David on it.
Without a bunch of heads.
Well, without just tons of people to have to swim through the crowds to get anywhere close to it, to see it in its entirety from floor to ceiling. I mean, with no one in front of it.
Pedestal and all.
I've never had that experience, and I was there in 1999. We were kind of trying to rush through and see it because they were talking about a strike of museum workers or something.
Strike.
And they said that they were going to close it too, and we didn't get there till 1 because of all the getting lost. We kind of rushed through, and then they weren't running anybody else, so we stayed.
And we stayed till around almost 3, I think.
And then we tried to catch another museum because it was half-price day. Everything, I think, was closed by that time. So we just kind of wandered to our old haunts, stopped by the Palazzo Vecchio where we were married. We walked up and down the Arno.
Walked past a few of the leather shops. Ended up making it around to Ciro and Sons.
San Lorenzo is right there by Ciro and Sons. Ciro and Sons was where we had our, what we call our rehearsal dinner, but since there wasn't a rehearsal, it was just a dinner. But the whole family got together in Ciro and Sons up on the 2nd floor to kind of celebrate our wedding, because it was an elopement, so there really wasn't a lot that we had planned for the wedding. So that was kind of our rehearsal dinner, reception, I don't know.
So we walked into Ciro and Sons and sat down at one of the tables. It seems like they really keep updating the place, and it's always changing. And the name's staying the same, the family's still there. Had a very late lunch. Like I said, it was around 3 or 3:30 by the time we got there. Just ordered a few pizzas. Probably within less than 5 minutes of us being walking in, they recognized us, which was pretty amazing. Talked about the video of his son, how they had just put the video up on the screen just not too long ago. And said, I remember, and you guys had your reception dinner upstairs, and after we had our pizzas and everything, he said, look, I want to show you your room upstairs. so he took us upstairs, and we got to see it, and it's all changed too.
A lot. They're fancy now.
Yeah.
And we're still not. Yeah, that was kind of cool that they took us to see our room. After that, we wandered around some more, but we had to meet Ben Singleton, our old wedding coordinator. We needed to meet him at Piazza della Repubblica. He said he wanted to meet at Pazowski's. We are in Piazza della Repubblica waiting on Ben Singleton. We are going to have a spritz with him. I'm excited.
Pazowski.
We were told it's where intellectuals meet. Men of letters, world travelers, explorers extraordinaire.
Society explorers and adventurers, maybe?
Maybe.
Perhaps.
I think he'll recognize us. It's been 5 years.
No, we're too old.
We are.
It's well past our bedtime to talk about.
Oh, it's way past our bedtime.
4:30.
So true.
Take a spin around the piazza.
As we sat outside, both you and I kind of nervously watched this, and we're like, this isn't really our kind of place. That's kind of pretentious. And I was like, I'm kind of uncomfortable sitting across from it, much less in it.
So we met up with Ben there, and he promptly
took us down some side streets.
About 6 blocks or so towards the Arno, and found a nice little place, a little more our speed.
Quaint, eclectic, something that's just not touristy and pretentious. It was a nice place.
Nice, tucked out of the way.
We got to have a couple of drinks with him. Of course, not enough time to catch up. We see him once every 5 years, I guess. But we stay in contact. We met up with Ben this morning and had some coffee with him, and the dear, sweet man that he is brought me a bouquet that was very similar to the bouquet I carried 10 years ago for our wedding. It was so good getting to see him and find out how he was doing, hear about his business, it picking up again. Weddings in Italy got hit pretty hard during the pandemic. The benefit of that, though, is during the pandemic, he got it back into his artwork and his drawing. And I would say, overjoyed when he presented us with one of his
pieces. That was really
just honored to have one of them in my house, because he really, truly is a Amazing artist. We got done with him a couple of hours ago. We just came back to the villa, having a little bit more wine, nibbling on my Fiesta della Donna cookies.
Yeah, and cheese. And
That was our day. Good day?
good day. Always an adventure.
Always.